Hi, this is David DuPont, and I have with me a transportation expert, Craig Speck, who's been in the transportation industry for about 25 years, if I'm not mistaken, and he's gleaned a lot of safety and security. He's seen a lot that's happened to seniors and with seniors along the way. So I'm going to ask Craig to kind of share with us tell us a little bit about yourself, Craig, and how you got in this business and kind of what you've seen and what makes a good transportation company. And if you can kind of tell us a little bit about that, that'd be great.
David, thanks for having this show with me today. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to your listeners. And as I said, my name is Craig Speck. I'm a regional rail manager at Masters Transportation. And 30 years in the industry. I'm also the author of 3 books, Traveling Group Decision Makers, How to Travel Safer Exponentially, How to Stay Out of Scams and Crashes and Lawsuits. Basically, how to gain absolute confidence in the most dangerous activity you ever engage in, David, which is hiring, arranging, and negotiating ground transportation for their traveling group and then getting in those vehicles and driving down the road. And all it takes is literally one mistake to make a trip scheduled to go north, turn around and go south, if you know what I mean. So I wrote these books to provide common sense tips. I had my own business for 16 years as a broker and consultant before joining Masters. In October, we did charter buses, van rentals, limousines, and school buses all over the United States, and then Masters to work for their minibus rental company in October. One of the biggest challenges that I see, especially in our industry, is that the group travel decision maker, especially when it comes to senior adults, really get in a hurry, and because they're having to be so budget conscious, they don't do their homework with the carrier that they've chosen to.
So can I stop you right there about
Sure.
Choosing the carrier?
Okay.
When you say carrier, does that mean like a Greyhound Bus Lines carrier, or what type of carrier are we talking about here?
Well, it'd be a motor coach rental carrier, a company that actually rents anywhere from 24 to 57 passenger minibuses or mini coaches or motor coaches, and provides them with a driver and all the insurance.
Fantastic. You talked about your book. Can you tell us the name of your book and maybe how the folks would be able to get a hold of it if they choose to do so?
Absolutely. My first 2, which I published through an independent publishing company. First one is called The Ultimate Common Sense Group Transportation Guide for Churches and Schools, How to Learn Not to Crash and Burn, #1. And then, the sequel is The Ultimate Common Sense Ground Transportation Guide for Traveling Groups, How to Learn Not to Crash and Burn, #2. And then the third book, I was chosen as a featured author with 7 authors around the world as an educator and advocate for clients. It's called Conversations with Elite Business Leaders. And all of my books are available in ebook format at no charge.
Super. And how would somebody get one if they wanted one?
So just give me a call at 817-437-8702. Or email me at CSpeck, that's initial C, S, P as in Paul, ECK, at masterstransportation.com.
Great. Hopefully somebody, before they go on a trip, they'll grab your book and know what to look for, because I believe in your books. I've read them both.
Thank you, David.
Get into detail about how bus transportation has changed. And really, you tell people what to look for, what the danger signs are, and what the good ones look like. So if you
Absolutely.
could share a little bit about that, when somebody's going to take their senior, or they know that, and I'm going to call her Grams, because that's the one that everybody knows who Grams is, and it could be a grandfather, it could be a grandmother, it could be an aunt, could be just somebody a dear friend that you love, but we're going to call her Grams for the sake of this recording. So if somebody has a Grams and they know that she's going to be taking a trip, or she wants to take a trip, what are a couple of the things they would want to look for in a transportation company or a coach company? And really, what do you suggest as far as if they were going to go on one, what would they be looking for?
Well, David, I think the first thing is to find out what type of group the coach company prefers to carry. When I was a broker consultant on my own, I had a few coach companies that specialized in carrying senior adults. In fact, one of them started his company doing just that, and it's still, of all the groups to carry, that was his favorite.
So, and can you explain a little bit why?
Well,
because I know the seniors need special special care. They're not special needs, but they need special care. So can you explain why he likes doing this so much?
Well, and I can tell you because so many of them are carrying youth groups and bands, and you've got these kids that are spilling drinks on the coach and sitting on the armrest and breaking them, yanking on the window shades, even going in and just totally messing up the restroom. And you don't have those challenges with the senior adult groups. They're the easiest. They're the really the least challenging logistically to assist, and of course the best behaved because they're.
but some of them are anyway. Some of them could be a little.
We hope so. By the time you get there, you really want to be ready for that. So that's the first thing, and then the second thing is to make sure that the company has the newer, nicer coaches. That they don't have a floor that's slippery, or you're sitting on a seat that the senior adults are going to be comfortable in. You want to always make sure that before your group steps into a motor coach that you have a $5 million certificate of liability insurance on file from the carrier. That's the number one thing. And number two is to know what their crash history looks like. If they've got fatal crashes on the record where people have died in the coaches, run in the other direction.
Okay. How would so I've got a grandma that wants to go on a trip. How would I know where to look to see if they have a good safety record?
Well, there's a website that you can go to. It's www.safersys.org. It's SAFERSYS.org. And you can look up a company by name or by Department of Transportation number, and it tells how many crashes they've had on their record, fatal or injury, whether they have the current $5 million in insurance, whether they have a DOT number because they have to have that to be operating legally, along with a minimum of $5 million in insurance. You can see how long they've been running their drivers, and you can see what kind of mechanical violations they have and if they've been taking care of them, or if they're getting penalized for the same ones over and over again. So there's just a lot of, and of course, any senior adult group leader should make an appointment to go look at the coaches of the carrier, see their facility, meet their people before they ever let one step foot into the vehicle, any of the coaches.
That's fantastic information. I would never have thought to look at the DOT to check up on a company. Now let's get to the drivers. So you've got the company and the equipment, and you want to check on that. How would you check on a driver to see if if any, let's say he was just not getting along with the passengers, and so it's not a safety violation on his record, but how would you know if you're getting a good driver or not?
Well, the biggest challenge that you have with drivers is that you have to count on the coach carrier to screen the driver. Federal privacy laws prohibit you from getting any of the personal information on the driver from the coach carrier. You can't copy their CDL. You can't copy or take pictures of their medical card. In my books, I've got a checklist of what you can and cannot do. One of the things that you can do is when they arrive, you can assess their appearance and their overall demeanor. Make sure their hair's nice and well kept. They're dressed nicely. They don't smell bad. They don't smell like alcohol. Their eyes aren't glazed over. And you can look at their medical card and their driver's license and make sure that it's current and valid. And that's about the extent of what you can do. Now, if a driver starts arguing with you, the best thing to do is not to argue back, but to call the coach carrier and get another driver before that driver gets behind the wheel.
That's a great suggestion, really and truly. I like that, so if you show up and you see somebody that's not dressed appropriately,
Exactly.
should raise a red flag, is what you're saying.
Or
And
inebriated or any of that.
that should raise a red flag.
Automatic red flag. It's time to call the company. You give me a driver that's not satisfactory. He's being argumentative, he's abrasive, whatever it is. Don't argue with them. Don't get personal. And you've really got to treat the driver like a family member and not a hired servant once you're on the trip, because the lives of your group are riding on that.
Yes. Yeah. Good point.
Thank you.
So have you ever had the experience to be around a group that you were taking care of that had a problem, a group of seniors or a senior in a group that had a special problem that you were able to solve?
There hasn't been really, in my 30 years, I've never really had a challenge with the client themselves. It was usually possibly maybe a coach driver that wasn't as respectful as they should be, or maybe didn't understand the dynamics of carrying a more mature group of people, and was used to dealing with kids and talking to them and snapping at them and all of that. And that, those kind of things are usually, or might have been a mechanical issue. Most of the carriers that I worked with, I had a very strict screening process, which eliminated a lot of the mechanical problems. But, just on occasion, there might be a senior adult minister that had a mechanical challenge, and then we would just call and figure out what the driver needed to do to look at the coach. And the wonderful thing about carrying the senior adults is they don't just push buttons without asking, because there's a button on the coach you can push and just shut it down. They don't go in and use the bathroom on the wall or do something crazy like that. I mean, they just, they're just really easy to work with. And so if a driver can't work with a group of senior adults, he can't work with anybody. That's my opinion after 30 years in the industry. So,
well, good. So you're saying if you can't get along with a group of seniors, you can't get along with anybody.
That's what I'm saying. Because the kids are the most difficult, because their hands are on everything.
Right. So seniors have, as a lot of things get harder as we get older.
Yes, sir.
Seniors have a harder time hearing. They have a harder time seeing. They have a hard time moving. They have a harder time getting their bodies to go where they want to. I know that it's a kind of a challenge for a lot of physically disabled or physically challenged seniors to get on, to step up, because a lot of times the buses have a step that's like 12, 13, 14 inches off the ground. Makes it difficult for the senior to get on or even off of the bus.
Yes, sir.
What do you guys kind of do about situations like that where you have a physically challenged senior?
Well, the biggest solution that I have known of in my time, and since I've known you, is the Sure Step that you invented.
Well, thank you.
Has that 6-foot step to help them get up, because the problem with, for instance, First Baptist Grand Prairie was out here. They rent our minibuses and drive them themselves, and they're also looking to replace a 15-passenger unit. The challenge is, even my minibuses, which we have from 12 to 35 passenger minibuses at Masters that you rent and drive yourself, it's never been offered before. But the problem is getting up that first step. And that's why this church wants to talk to you when we're done here, because you have the solution. Nobody else has invented a polyurethane solid step that you don't slip on to get these seniors and anybody else that has mobility challenges up into a bus. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that senior groups make is trying to go anywhere in a 15-passenger van. You have to step up high, bend down low. And with some of the senior adults, it's like Shemp on the Three Stooges. He gets bent over, he may never get back up. So that's what we try to avoid. We want to make it easy for them, to get up in there. I mean, it's great to have the steps in the minibuses and motor coaches, but They don't go all the way down to the floor. So that's where your product comes in. It's a wonderful product. I own one myself. I've sold as an independent rep for you when I had my own company, and you have the answer. All of these other things out there are lousy, poor imitations of the product that you've invented. And I say that because I have seen it at work.
Well, thanks. Yeah, so Craig is speaking about the senior step, and it's a 6-inch high yellow and black step stool that is rated for 500 pounds. It doesn't have any legs. So seniors can't get their feet caught under it if they're visually challenged. A lot of times the seniors will get their foot caught under a step that has legs, and they'll think their foot is on top of it, and they'll trip and fall. So we kind of solved that problem. And as seniors get older, they tend to get bigger because they're exercising less and eating more sometimes. And so they tend to get fairly heavy. And so we just kind of listened to what the independent retirement communities wanted. Their executive director said, hey, we're looking for something like this. I just kind of listened to what they wanted and gave them what they wanted. But that tends to solve a lot of the problem. But I didn't know if you had run across in your years of transportation expertise, run across anything else that may have worked as well or even better.
Well, one thing really nice at Masters, we have 12 passenger 12 and 2. They're 12 passenger wheelchair lift. It's got space for 2 wheelchairs and wheelchair ramp minibus that you can actually rent daily, weekly, monthly, or month to month, all the way up to 3 years.
Wow.
And so we have those in our fleet, and we sell and lease, everything from small ramp minivans all the way up to double-decker motor coaches. So somebody can get anything through us anywhere in the nation, but we have those available for rent, and, combine that with the Sure Step, and hey, you got the safest. We're renting between the 12, 15, Sprinter, 25, and 35 passenger mini coaches that we rent. These are the safest vehicles that have ever been on the road, and you can provide your own highly screened, well-rested driver that you're familiar with. David, what you mentioned earlier, the driver is the most unpredictable part of the equation when it comes to chartering a coach.
Right.
The 15 passenger vans are all rollover prone and so dangerous that, like, the sad thing is that I've seen in the last 5 years, most of the accidents happen to the senior adult group. Usually, whether it's their own church and they don't have an experienced enough driver behind the wheel, or this stupid coach carrier back last March who got stuck on a railroad track out of state, and I believe it was in Missouri, and the driver should have never taken the coach down the road because the railroad track was too low. He got stuck on the track.
Oh my goodness!
And the train hit the track, and of course, by the time they tried to get any of the senior adults off, it was too late. 41 of them were injured. 4 people were killed. But David, the thing that gave me goosebumps was the senior adult activity director that ordered the coach paid with her life and died on it.
Wow.
And if she had known me, she might have been able to.
So what you're saying is make sure you get make sure you, number one, you get a good coach that's been maintained properly.
Absolutely.
And the driver, you can, like we talked about earlier, if he's unkept, then maybe it was up late and you don't know it. So those are,
in this case, he didn't stick with the route. He didn't stick with the route that the carrier gave him, and he decided to, when coming back from a casino, to take them down a scenic route. Well, no coach, several other coach carriers that I talked to, their representatives said he should have never been on that road. And that company treated him like a hero, So I don't understand, how coach carrier can even, do this. I mean, you have to fire this guy and you have to send him to your biggest competitor. I mean, you really do.
Yeah.
You don't want him behind the wheel at all because, once a carrier had a fatal crash, I mean, you don't want to take that risk with your group.
Right. So he deviated from the original plan.
That's correct. He went down that road of his own volition and paid the price dearly.
Wow. Unbelievable. Well, Craig, thank you for your time. I really, really appreciate it. If somebody wants to get a hold of you and order a bus or has questions, how would they do that?
They can call me at 817-437-8702 or 817-477-3003. My email is cspeck@masterstransportation.com. I mainly specialize in executive loaded minibuses from 12 to 35 passengers that you rent and drive yourself on a daily, weekly, monthly, or month-to-month basis. I also have 3 chartered coach carriers here locally that I'm still doing referrals with, and I'm a nationwide unlimited miles broker for a very large rental company.
Fantastic. Thank you.
To big vans. So.
Thank you so much. This was great. I hope everybody got a lot of great information out there. Learning how to keep your gram safe if she is going to go on a bus tour. I know there's all sorts of different tours. There's senior companions that you can get to go with your grams if you want to. You can Google that. If you're afraid that she can't go by herself and you can't go with her, there's senior companions. But Craig just gave you all kinds of great information about what to look for in a coach and a driver to keep it safe. So thank you, Craig Speck at Master Transportation. I appreciate your time.
No problem. Thank you, David.